Welcome to Stoic Vivu, where ancient wisdom meets modern life. Every single day, we bring you practical Stoic philosophy that transforms how you navigate the complexities of contemporary living. Our mission is simple yet profound: to make the timeless teachings of Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus accessible and immediately applicable to your daily challenges. Today, we're exploring one of the most liberating yet challenging aspects of Stoic philosophy: learning how to stop caring what people think and developing unshakable trust in your own judgment. This isn't about becoming callous or dismissive of others. Rather, it's about recognizing a fundamental contradiction that Marcus Aurelius identified nearly 2,000 years ago, one that continues to plague us today. Consider this striking observation from the Roman emperor himself. We value ourselves more than other people, yet we care about their opinions more than our own. Take a moment to let that sink in. You instinctively know that you understand your own needs, dreams, and circumstances better than anyone else possibly could. You're the one living inside your own mind, experiencing your own struggles, and feeling the weight of your own decisions. Yet when it comes to making choices about your career, relationships, lifestyle, or even daily habits, how often do you find yourself paralyzed by what others might think? This paradox isn't just philosophically interesting, it's practically devastating. When you consistently prioritize others' opinions over your own inner wisdom, you surrender your agency to people who don't fully understand your situation, your values, or your deeper purpose. You end up living a life that looks acceptable from the outside but feels hollow from within. The Stoics understood that this tendency to seek external validation is natural but ultimately self-defeating. They developed specific practices and ways of thinking that help you break free from this mental prison. These aren't modern self-help techniques dressed up in ancient language. These are battle-tested approaches that helped Roman emperors make life-and-death decisions, that guided enslaved philosophers to maintain their dignity under impossible circumstances, and that enabled senators to stand against tyranny when everyone else fell in line. Throughout this exploration, we'll discover why most conventional wisdom is simply speculation masquerading as fact, how to build genuine confidence in your own judgment, and what daily practices can transform you from someone who constantly seeks approval into someone who acts with authentic conviction. We'll examine the ancient Stoic training methods that built mental independence, understand why following the crowd guarantees mediocrity, and learn how to transform criticism from a source of anxiety into fuel for growth. Most importantly, we'll explore how these philosophical insights translate into practical courage. The kind of courage that allows you to make bold decisions when everyone around you is playing it safe, to pursue meaningful work even when others don't understand your vision, and to live according to your deepest values regardless of social pressure. This isn't just about feeling better about yourself. It's about reclaiming your life from the tyranny of other people's expectations and discovering what becomes possible when you finally trust your own inner compass. 1. How to recognize when you're living for others' approval. Imagine walking into your office on a Monday morning, and your boss mentions that the company is implementing a new policy that doesn't sit right with you. Your gut tells you it's short-sighted and potentially harmful, but as you look around the conference room, you notice everyone else nodding in agreement. What do? Do you speak up based on your genuine assessment? Or do you stay silent because challenging the consensus feels too risky? This scenario illustrates something the Stoics recognized as one of humanity's most persistent traps: the assumption that other people possess some special knowledge or authority that makes their opinions more valuable than your own careful reasoning. Marcus Aurelius called this tendency one of our greatest sources of unnecessary suffering, and once you learn to recognize it, you'll start seeing it everywhere in your daily life. The Stoics had a particular insight about human nature that cuts straight to the heart of this issue. We naturally understand that we care more about our own well-being than we do about strangers or even close friends. This isn't selfishness. It's biological reality. You feel your own hunger, experience your own fatigue, and live with the consequences of your own decisions in ways that others simply cannot. Yet despite this obvious truth, we routinely treat other people's opinions as more credible than our own direct experience and careful thinking. Consider how this plays out in your career decisions. You might feel deeply drawn to a particular path that excites you and aligns with your strengths. But when family members express concern about job security or social status, you suddenly begin doubting your own assessment. You start researching what most people would do in your situation, seeking validation from online forums, or asking friends who have completely different values and circumstances what they think you should do. The Stoics understood that this pattern represents a fundamental confusion about the nature of knowledge and authority. Most of what passes for conventional wisdom is actually just collective speculation. People confidently share opinions about career paths they've never pursued, relationship dynamics they've never navigated, and life choices they've never had to make. Yet we treat these second-hand opinions as more reliable than our own first-hand experience and reasoning. Seneca observed this phenomenon in his letters to Lucilius, noting how people become enslaved to the judgments of crowds who have no real understanding of their individual circumstances. He pointed out that when you're making decisions based on what others think rather than what you know to be true, you're essentially letting strangers make your most important life choices. This dependency on external validation shows up in countless subtle ways throughout your daily routine. You choose restaurants based on online reviews rather than your own taste preferences. You buy clothes that look good to others rather than what makes you feel comfortable and confident. You express opinions in social settings that align with the group rather than sharing your genuine thoughts. Each of these moments represents a small surrender of your own judgment to the supposed authority of others. The workplace provides particularly clear examples of this dynamic. You attend meetings where you recognize flawed reasoning or problematic assumptions, but you stay quiet because speaking up might make you look difficult or uninformed. You pursue projects that you know won't succeed because they're popular with leadership. You adopt communication styles or work habits that feel unnatural because they're considered best practices in your industry. What makes this pattern so insidious is that it often feels like prudence or social intelligence. After all, considering other perspectives and adapting to social expectations can be valuable skills. But the Stoics drew a crucial distinction between thoughtfully considering input from others and automatically deferring to their judgment. Marcus Aurelius practiced a daily exercise that helped him maintain this distinction. Each morning, he would remind himself that he would encounter people throughout the day who would try to impose their opinions, fears, and expectations on him. Rather than automatically resisting or automatically complying, he prepared himself to evaluate each situation based on his own principles and reasoning. The key insight is learning to recognize the difference between genuine expertise and mere opinion. When someone has specific knowledge or experience that you lack, their input can be genuinely valuable. But when people are simply expressing preferences, fears, or social conditioning, Their opinions carry no more inherent authority than your own careful reflection. You can start identifying when you're living for others' approval by paying attention to your internal experience during decision-making moments. Notice when you feel that familiar anxiety about what others will think. Observe when you find yourself researching what's normal or acceptable rather than what aligns with your values and goals. Watch for moments when you discount your own preferences simply because they differ from what's popular or expected. The Stoics practiced what they called the discipline of desire, which involved regularly examining whether your wants and concerns were truly your own or whether they had been borrowed from others. They understood that most people never develop authentic preferences because they're too busy trying to want what they think they should want. This recognition becomes the foundation for everything else we'll explore. Once you can clearly see how often you defer to others' opinions despite having better information about your own life, you can begin the work of developing genuine trust in your own judgment. The goal isn't to become stubborn or dismissive of others, but to reclaim your rightful role as the primary authority on your own life and values. Building on this awareness, we can now turn to the practical question of how to cultivate unshakable confidence in your own decision-making abilities. 2. Build unshakable trust in your own judgment. You're standing at a crossroads in your career, and everyone around you has strong opinions about which direction you should take. Your parents advocate for stability and traditional success markers. Your friends push you toward what's trendy and exciting. Your colleagues suggest playing it safe until the economy improves. Meanwhile, you have a quiet inner conviction about what feels right for your unique circumstances and long-term vision. How do you learn to trust that inner voice when it contradicts the chorus of external advice? The Stoics understood that developing trust in your own judgment isn't about becoming arrogant or dismissive of others' input. Rather, it's about recognizing that you possess a unique vantage point on your own life that no one else can replicate. Epictetus taught that you are the ultimate authority on what happens within your own mind, your own values, and your own direct experience of the world. This principle becomes clearer when you consider the fundamental limitations that others face when trying to advise you. Even your closest friends and family members can only observe your life from the outside. They see your circumstances through the filter of their own experiences, fears, and assumptions. They mean well, but they're essentially trying to solve a puzzle while missing crucial pieces that only you possess. Think about a specific decision you're currently facing. You know things about your situation that others don't, your energy levels throughout different times of day, your genuine interests versus the ones you think you should have, your financial priorities based on your actual spending patterns, your tolerance for various types of stress, and your deep-seated values that you might not even articulate to others. This information isn't trivial background data. It's essential intelligence for making good decisions. Seneca wrote extensively about this concept in his letters, explaining how he learned to distinguish between his authentic preferences and the desires he had absorbed from Roman society. He practiced a daily exercise of examining his motivations, asking himself whether he wanted something because it aligned with his genuine nature or because it would impress others or meet social expectations. You can develop this same clarity through what the Stoics called the discipline of judgment. This involves regularly stepping back from your immediate emotional reactions and social pressures to examine what you actually think and feel about a situation. The key is learning to access your own wisdom without the interference of anxiety about others' approval. Here's how this works in practice. When you're facing a decision, start by gathering the factual information you need. Research the practical considerations, understand the potential consequences, and collect relevant data. This is the foundation of good judgment. But then comes the crucial step that most people skip: spending quiet time alone with your thoughts, away from others' opinions and social media influences, to process this information through your own value system. Marcus Aurelius modeled this approach throughout his reign as emperor. He faced countless decisions where advisors, senators, and citizens all had strong opinions about what he should do. Rather than automatically following the loudest voices or the most popular positions, he developed a practice of morning reflection where he would examine each situation through the lens of Stoic principles and his own understanding of what would truly serve the common good. The emperor's approach reveals an important distinction between confidence and arrogance. Trusting your own judgment doesn't mean ignoring input from others or assuming you're always right. Instead, it means taking full responsibility for processing that input through your own reasoning and values. You listen to advice, consider different perspectives, and gather information, but the final synthesis happens within your own mind based on your own priorities and principles. This process requires developing comfort with uncertainty and the possibility of making mistakes. The Stoics understood that perfect decisions are impossible because the future is inherently unpredictable. What matters is making decisions based on your best current understanding rather than deferring to others because decision-making feels too risky or difficult. Consider how this applies to something as simple as choosing how to spend your weekend. You might feel pressured to attend social events because that's what active, successful people do. But if you honestly assess your current needs, you might realize that you'd benefit more from solitude, creative projects, or physical activity. Trusting your judgment means honoring that authentic assessment even if it disappoints others or seems less impressive. The Stoics practiced specific exercises to strengthen this capacity. They would regularly make small decisions based purely on their own assessment, without seeking validation or consensus. They practiced sitting with the discomfort of others' disapproval when they made choices that aligned with their values but contradicted social expectations. They cultivated what Epictetus called the discipline of desire, learning to want what was truly good for them rather than what looked good to others. Building trust in your own judgment also requires recognizing that you've already been making successful decisions throughout your life. You've navigated countless situations, solved numerous problems, and adapted to changing circumstances. While you've certainly made mistakes, you've also demonstrated competence and resilience. This track record provides evidence that your judgment, while imperfect, is fundamentally reliable. The goal is to develop what the Stoics called practical wisdom, the ability to apply universal principles to your specific circumstances. This wisdom emerges from the combination of philosophical understanding, life experience, and honest self-reflection. It's not something you can outsource to others, no matter how well-meaning or knowledgeable they might be. With this foundation of self-trust established, we can now explore the specific practices that the ancient Stoics used to build mental independence and insulate themselves from the pressures of public opinion. 3. The ancient practice that builds mental independence. You're getting dressed for an important business meeting, and you find yourself automatically reaching for the outfit that will make the best impression on the people you're meeting. This seems perfectly reasonable until you consider what the ancient Roman senator Cato would have done in the same situation. Despite being one of the wealthiest and most influential men in Rome, Cato deliberately chose to wear his most modest clothing to important public occasions. He walked through the city barefoot when everyone else wore expensive sandals. He slept on the ground with his soldiers when he could have enjoyed luxurious accommodations. These weren't acts of poverty or penance. They were sophisticated psychological training exercises designed to build something far more valuable than social approval: complete mental independence. Cato understood something profound about human psychology that modern research has only recently begun to validate. When you make decisions based primarily on how others will perceive you, you're essentially training your mind to become dependent on external feedback for a sense of security and self-worth. Every time you choose comfort, status, or approval over your own authentic judgment, you're strengthening neural pathways that make you more susceptible to social pressure in the future. The Stoics developed what they called voluntary discomfort, a systematic approach to building mental resilience by deliberately choosing the more challenging path when external pressures would normally push you toward the easier option. This wasn't masochism or attention-seeking behavior. It was methodical preparation for the moments when standing up for your principles would require genuine courage. Consider how this principle applies to your daily life. You're in a group conversation where someone makes a comment that you find problematic, but challenging it would create social tension. In that moment, your previous choices matter enormously. If you've spent months or years prioritizing social harmony over authentic expression, speaking up will feel almost impossible. But if you've been practicing small acts of independence, such as expressing unpopular preferences about movies or restaurants, or wearing clothes that feel right to you rather than following trends, you'll have developed the mental muscle memory needed to act with integrity. The genius of Cato's approach was that he didn't wait for high-stakes situations to test his independence. Instead, he created low-stakes opportunities to practice every single day. When he chose to walk barefoot through Rome, he was building psychological calluses against the sting of social judgment. When he wore simple clothing despite his wealth, he was proving to himself that his sense of worth didn't depend on others' impressed reactions. This practice works because it directly addresses the root cause of people-pleasing behavior, the unconscious belief that others' approval is necessary for your safety and well-being. When you voluntarily choose discomfort or social awkwardness and discover that you not only survive but often feel more authentic and energized, you begin to internalize a different truth. You realize that others' opinions, while sometimes interesting or informative, are not actually required for your fundamental well-being. Marcus Aurelius applied this same principle during his reign as emperor. Despite having access to unlimited luxury and comfort, he maintained practices that kept him grounded in reality rather than insulated by privilege. He spent time with ordinary citizens, slept in simple accommodations during military campaigns, and regularly reminded himself that his imperial status was temporary and largely irrelevant to his true worth as a person. The emperor's approach reveals an important aspect of this practice. It's not about rejecting all comfort or pleasure, but about ensuring that your comfort doesn't become a psychological crutch that makes you afraid of discomfort. When you know you can handle criticism, inconvenience, or social disapproval, you're free to make decisions based on what's actually right rather than what's socially safe. You can begin implementing this ancient practice immediately by identifying small areas where you currently make choices based on others' expectations rather than your own authentic preferences. Perhaps you always order wine at dinner because it seems sophisticated, even though you prefer tea. Maybe you laugh at jokes you don't find funny because everyone else is laughing. These might seem like trivial examples, but they represent the same psychological dynamic that prevents people from speaking up about important issues or pursuing meaningful goals. Start with decisions that have minimal consequences but require you to act against social expectations. Express genuine enthusiasm for something that others might consider uncool. Wear clothing that feels comfortable and authentic to you rather than following current fashion trends. Choose activities based on what energizes you rather than what looks impressive on social media. Seneca practiced a more systematic version of this approach, regularly choosing to live below his means despite his considerable wealth. He would spend days eating simple food, wearing basic clothing, and sleeping on hard surfaces, not as punishment but as training. He wanted to prove to himself that he could be content and effective regardless of external circumstances. The psychological benefits of this practice extend far beyond building confidence. When you regularly prove to yourself that you can handle discomfort and social disapproval, you develop what psychologists now call distress tolerance. This is the ability to experience difficult emotions without immediately acting to escape or avoid them. High distress tolerance is strongly correlated with better decision-making, stronger relationships, and greater life satisfaction. This mental training becomes particularly valuable during major life transitions or crises. When you face job loss, relationship challenges, or health problems, your previous experience with voluntary discomfort helps you respond with clarity and purpose rather than panic and people-pleasing. You've already proven to yourself that you can navigate difficulty with dignity and authenticity. This foundation of mental independence naturally leads us to examine why following conventional wisdom and popular opinion creates such predictably mediocre outcomes in both personal and professional contexts. 4. Why following the crowd guarantees mediocrity. You're scrolling through job postings, and you notice that most positions in your field require the same qualifications, offer similar salaries, and use nearly identical language to describe their company culture. Everyone seems to be competing for the same opportunities using the same strategies. This scenario perfectly illustrates what Seneca observed about crowd mentality. When everyone is moving in the same direction, they're all heading toward the same ordinary destination. The Stoics understood something counterintuitive about human nature and success. While it feels safer to follow established patterns and popular approaches, this strategy almost guarantees that you'll achieve average results at best. This isn't because there's anything wrong with average outcomes, but because exceptional results, by definition, require doing something that most people aren't doing. Think about this principle in terms of basic economics. When everyone pursues the same career path, those paths become oversaturated and competitive. When everyone adopts the same investment strategies, those strategies become less profitable. When everyone follows the same social scripts and lifestyle choices, the results become predictable and uninspiring. The crowd represents safety in numbers, but it also represents the mathematical certainty of average outcomes. Marcus Aurelius faced this dynamic constantly as emperor. Roman politics operated according to well-established patterns of favoritism, corruption, and power-seeking behavior. These patterns felt safe to most politicians because they were widely accepted and socially rewarded. However, the emperor recognized that following these conventional approaches would make him just another mediocre ruler, remembered only for maintaining the status quo rather than creating meaningful progress. Instead, Marcus Aurelius chose to govern according to Stoic principles that often contradicted popular expectations. He promoted people based on merit rather than political connections. He lived modestly despite having access to unlimited luxury. He made decisions based on long-term benefits to the empire rather than short-term political advantages. These choices often made him unpopular with the Roman elite, but they also made him one of history's most respected leaders. This pattern reveals something crucial about the relationship between authenticity and excellence. When you make decisions based on your own careful analysis and genuine values rather than following what everyone else is doing, you're not just being different for the sake of being different. You're accessing information and perspectives that others are ignoring because they're too focused on fitting in. Consider how this plays out in your professional life. You attend networking events where everyone exchanges the same polite small talk and business cards. You follow industry best practices that everyone in your field already knows. You compete for promotions using strategies that every ambitious person in your company is already implementing. While these approaches might help you avoid obvious mistakes, they're unlikely to help you stand out or achieve exceptional results. The Stoics practiced what they called the discipline of action, which involved regularly examining whether their choices were based on genuine reasoning or simply on following established patterns. They understood that most social conventions exist not because they're optimal, but because they're familiar and require minimal thinking or risk-taking. Seneca illustrated this concept through his approach to wealth and business. While most wealthy Romans focused on accumulating more possessions and social status, Seneca developed a philosophy of wealth that prioritized freedom and virtue over accumulation. This unconventional approach allowed him to build lasting prosperity while maintaining his integrity and peace of mind, outcomes that eluded many of his contemporaries who followed more conventional paths to success. The psychological mechanism behind crowd-following behavior is what modern researchers call social proof bias. When you're uncertain about the best course of action, you automatically look to see what others are doing and assume that their choices represent wisdom or superior information. However, this assumption fails to account for the fact that most people are also looking around for social cues rather than thinking independently. This creates what economists call information cascades, where everyone is following everyone else without anyone actually having superior knowledge or insight. You see this phenomenon constantly in financial markets, fashion trends, career advice, and lifestyle choices. People make decisions based on what seems popular or widely accepted, not because they've carefully evaluated whether those choices align with their own circumstances and goals. The Stoics recognized that breaking free from this pattern requires developing what they called practical wisdom, the ability to think clearly about your specific situation rather than defaulting to general rules or popular opinions. This wisdom emerges from combining universal principles with honest self-reflection and careful analysis of your unique circumstances. Epictetus taught his students to regularly ask themselves whether their goals and strategies were genuinely their own or whether they had simply absorbed them from their social environment. He understood that most people never develop authentic ambitions because they're too busy pursuing what they think they're supposed to want based on social expectations. You can begin applying this insight by examining areas of your life where you're following conventional wisdom without questioning whether it actually serves your specific goals and values. Perhaps you're saving money in ways that everyone recommends without considering whether those approaches match your risk tolerance and timeline. Maybe you're pursuing relationships or career advancement using strategies that seem universally accepted without evaluating whether they align with your authentic personality and long-term vision. Understanding why conventional approaches lead to conventional results naturally brings us to the question of how to handle the inevitable criticism and resistance you'll encounter when you choose a more authentic and independent path. 5. Transform criticism into fuel for growth. You've just shared an idea that you're genuinely excited about with a group of colleagues, and the response is immediate skepticism. One person questions your judgment, another suggests you're being unrealistic, and a third warns you about all the ways your approach could fail. Your initial reaction might be to feel defensive, hurt, or tempted to abandon the idea altogether. But what if this criticism, rather than being evidence that you're on the wrong track, is actually confirmation that you're onto something genuinely original and valuable? Epictetus taught his students a revolutionary way of thinking about criticism and opposition. Rather than viewing negative feedback as an attack on their worth or judgment, he helped them understand criticism as information about the gap between their authentic path and conventional expectations. When people react strongly to your choices, they're often revealing more about their own fears and limitations than they are about the quality of your decisions. This reframing becomes clearer when you consider the psychological dynamics behind most criticism. When someone sees you taking risks or pursuing unconventional goals, it can trigger their own anxiety about the choices they haven't made or the chances they haven't taken. Your willingness to act independently reminds them of their own compromises and settlements. Their criticism often represents an unconscious attempt to pull you back into the comfort zone where everyone feels equally safe and equally limited. Marcus Aurelius faced this dynamic constantly as emperor. Every decision he made was scrutinized by senators, citizens, and historians who had their own ideas about how he should govern. Rather than trying to please all these different constituencies, he developed a practice of examining criticism to identify which concerns reflected genuine wisdom and which simply reflected the critic's personal anxieties or political interests. The emperor understood that useful criticism usually comes with specific, actionable information. When someone points out a genuine flaw in your reasoning, identifies a risk you hadn't considered, or offers expertise that you lack, their feedback can genuinely improve your decisions. However, much of what sounds like criticism is actually just emotional resistance disguised as practical advice. You can learn to distinguish between these two types of feedback by paying attention to the underlying message. Constructive criticism focuses on improving your approach while supporting your right to pursue your goals. It sounds like, "Have you considered this potential challenge?" Or, "Here's what I learned when I tried something similar." Destructive criticism focuses on discouraging your efforts entirely. It sounds like, "That's too risky," or "People like us don't do things like that." The difference becomes even more apparent when you examine the motivation behind each type of feedback. Constructive criticism emerges from a desire to help you succeed more effectively. The critic genuinely wants you to achieve your goals and is offering information that might help you avoid pitfalls or improve your strategy. Destructive criticism, by contrast, emerges from a desire to maintain the status quo. The critic feels threatened by your independence and is unconsciously trying to limit your options to what feels safe and familiar to them. Seneca practiced a daily exercise that helped him extract value from criticism while avoiding its emotionally destructive effects. Each evening, he would review any negative feedback he had received during the day and ask himself two questions. What can I learn from this? And what does this reveal about the critic's own fears or limitations? This practice allowed him to benefit from legitimate concerns while maintaining his confidence and direction. Consider how this two-question framework applies to common types of criticism you might encounter. When someone says your career change is too risky, you can ask what specific risks they're identifying and whether their concern reflects genuine market knowledge or their own fear of career uncertainty. When someone suggests your creative project won't appeal to audiences, you can examine whether they're offering insight based on relevant experience or expressing their own discomfort with unconventional art. This approach becomes particularly powerful when dealing with criticism from people whose opinions you normally value. When family members, close friends, or respected colleagues express concern about your choices, it's natural to assume their feedback carries more weight than criticism from strangers. However, the people closest to you often have the most invested in keeping you predictable and safe. Their criticism might reflect their love for you, but it can also reflect their own anxiety about change and uncertainty. The Stoics understood that growth requires moving beyond the boundaries of what feels comfortable and familiar to the people around you. When you're developing new skills, exploring new opportunities, or expressing aspects of your personality that you've previously kept hidden, the people who knew the old version of you might unconsciously resist these changes. Their criticism often represents an attempt to preserve the relationship dynamics they understand rather than an objective assessment of your new direction. This doesn't mean you should ignore all feedback or assume that criticism is always wrong. Instead, it means developing the ability to separate the emotional impact of criticism from its informational content. When someone questions your judgment, you can acknowledge their concern while maintaining confidence in your own decision-making process. When someone predicts negative consequences, you can consider their warnings without automatically assuming they have superior knowledge about your situation. Epictetus taught a specific mental exercise for handling criticism constructively. When someone criticizes your choices, instead of immediately defending yourself or accepting their judgment, pause and ask, "What would I think about this situation if I were advising a friend?" This perspective shift helps you evaluate the criticism more objectively while reducing the emotional charge that can cloud your judgment. The philosopher also emphasized that criticism often provides valuable information about which aspects of your approach might need refinement, even when the overall direction remains sound. Someone might correctly identify that your timeline is unrealistic while being wrong about whether your goal is worthwhile. Another person might accurately point out potential obstacles while overestimating how difficult those obstacles will be to overcome. Learning to extract useful information while maintaining your emotional equilibrium transforms criticism from a threat into a resource. When you can approach negative feedback with curiosity rather than defensiveness, you gain access to perspectives and insights that can genuinely improve your decisions and outcomes. The goal isn't to become immune to feedback or to assume that you're always right. Rather, it's to develop the emotional resilience needed to pursue meaningful goals despite inevitable opposition. When you can transform criticism from a source of self-doubt into information that helps you refine your approach, you gain access to one of the most powerful tools for personal and professional growth. With this foundation for handling criticism established, we can now explore the specific daily practices that create the mental strength needed for consistently independent decision-making. 6. The daily habits that create fearless decision-making. You wake up tomorrow morning with a major decision to make. Perhaps it's whether to accept a job offer that excites you but requires relocating to an unfamiliar city. Maybe it's deciding whether to end a relationship that feels comfortable but unfulfilling. Or it could be choosing whether to invest your savings in a business opportunity that others consider too risky. In that moment of decision, your ability to act with clarity and courage won't depend on how you feel in that specific instant. It will depend on the mental habits you've been building through thousands of small choices leading up to that pivotal moment. Marcus Aurelius understood this principle intimately. As Emperor of Rome, he faced decisions that affected millions of lives, often with incomplete information and under enormous pressure from competing interests. His ability to lead with wisdom and integrity didn't emerge spontaneously during crises. Instead, it grew from daily practices that strengthened his capacity for independent judgment and principled action. The emperor began each day with what he called morning reflections, a practice of examining the challenges he would likely face and preparing his mind to respond according to Stoic principles rather than immediate emotions or social pressures. He would remind himself that he would encounter people who were angry, ungrateful, or demanding, and he would prepare to respond with patience and reason rather than reactive frustration. This morning preparation serves a crucial psychological function. When you anticipate challenging situations and mentally rehearse responding with your values rather than your impulses, you're essentially preloading your mind with better decision-making patterns. Instead of being caught off guard by difficult moments and defaulting to whatever feels easiest or safest, you've already established a framework for acting with intention and integrity. You can develop this same capacity by spending 10 minutes each morning considering the decisions you'll likely face during the day and visualizing yourself handling them according to your authentic values rather than social expectations. If you know you'll be in meetings where you might be tempted to stay quiet when you have valuable input, you can mentally rehearse speaking up constructively. If you anticipate social situations where you might feel pressured to agree with opinions that don't align with your thinking, you can prepare to express your perspective respectfully but clearly. Seneca practiced a complimentary evening exercise that he called the daily review. Each night before sleep, he would examine the decisions he had made during the day, not to judge himself harshly but to extract lessons that would improve his future choices. He would ask himself which decisions reflected his genuine values and which were influenced by fear, social pressure, or immediate convenience. This evening reflection creates a feedback loop that gradually improves your decision-making quality over time. When you regularly examine your choices with honest curiosity rather than harsh judgment, you begin to notice patterns in your behavior. You might discover that you make better decisions when you're well-rested, or that you're more susceptible to social pressure in certain environments, or that particular types of people tend to trigger your people-pleasing tendencies. The key insight is that fearless decision-making isn't about eliminating fear or uncertainty. Rather, it's about developing the capacity to act according to your principles even when you feel afraid, uncertain, or socially pressured. This capacity grows through practice with smaller decisions that gradually build your confidence in your own judgment. Consider how this principle applies to something as simple as choosing what to eat for lunch. If you consistently make food choices based on what's convenient, socially acceptable, or emotionally comforting rather than what actually nourishes your body and aligns with your health goals, you're training your mind to prioritize short-term ease over long-term well-being. Conversely, when you regularly choose foods that support your energy and health, even when they require more effort or seem less appealing to others, you're strengthening your capacity to prioritize your authentic needs over immediate impulses. The Stoics understood that this training must be systematic rather than sporadic. Epictetus taught his students to identify specific areas where they were most susceptible to external pressure and to create deliberate practices for building strength in those areas. If someone struggled with financial decisions due to social comparison, they might practice making purchases based solely on utility rather than status. If someone had difficulty expressing disagreement in groups, They might practice sharing their genuine opinions in low-stakes conversations. This systematic approach recognizes that courage and independence are skills that can be developed through practice rather than fixed personality traits that you either possess or lack. When you consistently choose authenticity over approval in small situations, you're building what psychologists call self-efficacy, the confidence that you can handle challenging situations effectively. The daily practice also involves what Marcus Aurelius called negative visualization, the exercise of imagining how you would respond if your current circumstances changed dramatically. This isn't pessimistic thinking, but rather mental preparation that builds resilience and reduces attachment to outcomes beyond your control. When you regularly consider how you would maintain your values and well-being if you lost your job, ended a relationship, or faced a health challenge, you develop confidence that you can adapt to change while remaining true to yourself. This preparation becomes particularly valuable during major life transitions when the pressure to make safe, conventional choices often conflicts with opportunities for authentic growth and meaningful risk-taking. The daily habits of morning preparation, evening reflection, and systematic courage building create a foundation of inner strength that allows you to pursue important goals even when others doubt your judgment or predict negative outcomes. In essence, fearless decision-making emerges from the accumulation of countless small choices to prioritize truth over comfort, authenticity over approval, and long-term integrity over immediate convenience. 7. How to take bold action when everyone doubts you. You're standing at the threshold of a decision that could transform your life, but everyone around you thinks you're making a terrible mistake. Your family warns you about the risks, your friends question your judgment, and even strangers on the internet seem convinced that your approach is doomed to fail. In this moment, you have two choices. You can retreat to the safety of conventional wisdom, or you can follow the example of one of history's most principled leaders and act according to your deepest convictions regardless of universal opposition. When Julius Caesar moved to seize control of the Roman Republic, virtually every senator and citizen understood that resistance was futile. Caesar commanded the most powerful army in the known world, had the loyalty of the masses, and possessed the political cunning to outmaneuver any opposition. The rational response was to accommodate this new reality and hope for favorable treatment under the coming dictatorship. Only one man in all of Rome chose a different path: Marcus Porcius Cato, who decided that some principles were worth defending even when defeat seemed certain. Cato's decision to oppose Caesar wasn't based on a realistic assessment of his chances for success. He understood perfectly well that he was likely to lose everything, including his life. Instead, his choice emerged from a deeper understanding of what the Stoics called the discipline of action, the principle that right action must be taken regardless of external circumstances or probable outcomes. This story illuminates something crucial about bold action in the face of doubt. The goal isn't to guarantee success or to prove that everyone else is wrong. Rather, the goal is to maintain integrity with your deepest values and convictions, even when doing so requires enormous personal risk. When you can act from this foundation, you discover a form of courage that doesn't depend on others' approval or even on favorable odds. Understanding this principle helps explain why most people struggle to take meaningful action when facing universal doubt. They're unconsciously looking for external validation or reasonable assurance of success before they're willing to move forward. However, truly bold action often requires moving forward precisely when such assurance is unavailable. The very fact that everyone doubts your judgment might indicate that you're pursuing something genuinely innovative or important rather than following a well-worn path that others can easily understand and predict. Consider how this dynamic plays out in your own life when you're contemplating a significant change. Perhaps you're thinking about starting a business in a field where you lack traditional credentials, or pursuing a creative project that doesn't fit conventional market expectations, or making a lifestyle change that friends and family consider impractical or risky. The universal doubt you encounter often reflects other people's own limitations and fears rather than objective assessment of your situation. Marcus Aurelius faced this challenge repeatedly as emperor when his philosophical principles conflicted with political expediency. Roman tradition expected emperors to prioritize military conquest, personal glory, and the accumulation of wealth and power. However, Marcus Aurelius was guided by Stoic teachings that emphasized service to the common good, personal virtue, and the development of wisdom over the pursuit of external achievements. When the emperor chose to spend time writing philosophical reflections rather than planning military campaigns, or when he promoted officials based on merit rather than political connections, or when he lived modestly despite having access to unlimited luxury, he faced criticism from senators, citizens, and historians who expected more conventional imperial behavior. Yet these seemingly impractical choices contributed to his reputation as one of history's most effective and respected leaders. The emperor's example reveals an important paradox about bold action. When you act according to your authentic convictions rather than trying to meet others' expectations, you often achieve better results than if you had followed conventional wisdom. This happens because authentic action tends to be more focused, more sustainable, and more aligned with your genuine strengths and interests than action based on external pressure or social compliance. Epictetus taught a specific mental exercise for building the courage needed to act despite universal doubt. He encouraged his students to regularly imagine themselves taking important action while completely alone, without any audience to impress or validate their choices. This mental practice helps distinguish between action motivated by genuine conviction and action motivated by the desire for approval or recognition. You can apply this exercise to your current situation by asking yourself whether you would still pursue your intended course of action if no one would ever know about it or be able to praise you for it. If the answer is yes, you're likely acting from authentic motivation. If the answer is no, you might be unconsciously seeking external validation rather than following your genuine convictions. The practical challenge of taking bold action despite doubt also requires developing what the Stoics called emotional resilience. When everyone around you expresses skepticism or concern, it's natural to feel isolated, uncertain, or tempted to abandon your course. Building resilience involves accepting these difficult emotions as natural parts of the process rather than evidence that you're making a mistake. Seneca practiced an exercise he called voluntary adversity, deliberately putting himself in situations where he would face criticism, discomfort, or social disapproval in order to build his capacity for independent action. He understood that the ability to act boldly despite opposition must be developed through practice rather than hoping it will emerge spontaneously during critical moments. This systematic preparation becomes essential because bold action often requires sustained effort over extended periods rather than a single moment of courage. When you're building a business, creating art, or pursuing personal transformation, you'll face doubt and criticism repeatedly throughout the process. Your ability to persist depends on having developed the internal resources needed to maintain direction despite ongoing opposition. Ultimately, The capacity for bold action emerges from clarity about what matters most to you and commitment to those values regardless of external circumstances. When you know who you are and what you stand for, other people's doubt becomes information rather than instruction. You began this journey by recognizing a fundamental paradox that Marcus Aurelius identified nearly 2 millennia ago. Despite valuing ourselves more than others, we consistently allow their opinions to carry more weight than our own carefully considered judgment. Through exploring these ancient Stoic teachings, you've discovered that this contradiction isn't just philosophically interesting. It's practically devastating to anyone seeking an authentic and meaningful life. The path forward requires understanding that most of what passes for authoritative knowledge is actually collective speculation dressed up as wisdom. When you learn to recognize the signs of living for others' approval, you began to see how often you defer to opinions from people who lack crucial information about your unique circumstances, values, and aspirations. This recognition becomes the foundation for everything else. Building unshakable trust in your own judgment emerges from acknowledging that you possess irreplaceable insights about your own life that no external advisor can replicate. Your direct experience, authentic preferences, and personal values provide essential data that others simply cannot access. The Stoics understood that this inner authority must be cultivated through practice and philosophical reflection rather than assumed automatically. The ancient practices that build mental independence, exemplified by Cato's deliberate choices to wear simple clothing and sleep on the ground with his soldiers, reveal how systematic preparation in low-stakes situations creates the psychological strength needed for high-stakes decisions. These weren't acts of asceticism, but sophisticated training exercises designed to build immunity to social pressure and external validation. Understanding why following the crowd guarantees mediocrity illuminates the mathematical reality that exceptional results require approaches that most people aren't pursuing. When everyone competes in the same spaces using identical strategies, the outcomes become predictably average. Originality and excellence emerge from the courage to explore territories that others consider too risky or unconventional. Transforming criticism into fuel for growth changes your relationship with opposition from threat to opportunity. When you can distinguish between constructive feedback that improves your approach and destructive resistance that reflects others' fears, criticism becomes valuable information rather than emotional assault. This skill allows you to benefit from legitimate concerns while maintaining confidence in your authentic direction. The daily habits that create fearless decision-making, morning preparation, evening reflection, and systematic courage building, demonstrate that independence and integrity are developed through consistent practice rather than spontaneous inspiration. These routines create the internal foundation needed to act with conviction when external pressures would normally overwhelm your judgment. Finally, learning to take bold action when everyone doubts you requires understanding that right action must sometimes be taken regardless of probable outcomes or social approval. Cato's opposition to Julius Caesar exemplifies this principle. Some convictions are worth defending even when success seems impossible. These aren't abstract philosophical concepts, but practical tools for reclaiming your life from the tyranny of others' expectations. Every day presents opportunities to choose authenticity over approval, courage over comfort, and personal conviction over social compliance. If this exploration of Stoic wisdom has resonated with you, I encourage you to subscribe to the Stoic Vivu channel, where we publish daily videos bringing ancient philosophy into practical focus for modern challenges. Like this video if it provided value, share it with others who might benefit from these insights, and join our community of people committed to living with greater authenticity and courage. Your journey toward genuine independence starts with your next decision. Make it count.